afternoon and welcome to today's session where we will be discussing intercalated degrees. I'm Katrina, part of the student recruitment and admissions team here at the School of Biodiversity, One Health and Veterinary Medicine. I'm thrilled to have a current student with us today to share his experience with the intercalated degree. And I wonder, Griffin, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us why you chose the University of Glasgow?
Yeah, so hi. As you said, my name is Griffin. I'm originally from Chicago in the States, if you couldn't tell by my accent. And so I chose the University of Glasgow because I knew it was going to be a really, really global kind of community. I was kind of ready to spread my wings even further from where I'd gone for undergrad. And so I found myself here. And, you know, it's even greater and larger of a community than I could have hoped. So
that's great. Thanks so much, Griffin. And so we're really interested today in sort of intercalated degrees. So I guess the question is, why did you choose an intercalated degree?
Yeah, so actually, the intercalated degree was something that I did learn about when I was coming to Glasgow and thinking about applying. But it kind of had fallen into the back of my mind when you know, term comes and everything starts rushing at you. But then I was talking to some of my lecturers and professors, and they were just, you know, taking note that I had certain interests kind of beyond the scope of the course in terms of the details that I was looking for and the certain interests that I had kind of out with the program. And so they kind of had just directed me to some information pages about, you know, alternative programs that I could look into. And the intercalated degree really seemed to be a great idea for me because I did have these interests that I really wanted to explore and kind of build my, you know, profile and confidence in these areas, which will, you know, eventually contribute to my you know, professional kind of repertoire.
Yeah.
And so there were options for bachelor's degrees, which, you know, I'd already obtained, in undergrad. And, you know, there were master's options as well, which I definitely found more appealing and was kind of guided towards. And I got the honor and privilege to kind of go into one with a very self-structured kind of more student-to-student catered approach because it was research-based, and so I could kind of take a class that, you know, suited the needs of my interests and the research that I was pursuing. And otherwise, I could be in the lab, be in the field, or just at a coffee shop, kind of wherever I needed to be doing the work as long as it got done, kind of thing. So it was really, really great to kind of explore myself as an independent learner. As a cohort of one kind of thing, as opposed to 130, 140. And it was really, really great. You know, I learned a lot about the things I wanted to learn and the things I didn't know I wanted to learn about. So
great. And sort of with that, how did you sort of go about sort of choosing your topic and your sort of area of focus?
Yeah, well, I find myself I'm really drawn to a lot of different areas that I find very, very interesting. But, you know, there are areas that I find myself, you know, kind of down these rabbit holes and staying after class and talking to lecturers and being really intrigued and wanting to know more about, you know, what's happening now kind of and, you know, on the forefront kind of things. And so, you know, the kind of purpose of the program is to, you know, introduce students who have interest and some experience in research and really give them, you know, like almost like a really condensed PhD like experience without all of the high kind of pressure for a lot of these other things. And it gives you a taste of running your own kind of study and working with a team in a very kind of leveled playing field, and you have all this responsibility. And so all these things really just drew me into like a really independent, you know, mode of study that attracted, you know, all of my interests in addition to like collaborating and team working, but having a lot of independence in addition to that, the kind of experience that I didn't really get in kind of a classroom setting in a traditional sense. It all just kind of fit very well because I knew I liked things relating to reproduction and in infectious diseases. And there were areas that I knew I wanted to explore that I didn't know much about, like production animal medicine in general. So, it served itself very, very well for all these things that I was looking for.
Great. And could you maybe expand a little bit about that, about what you sort of did with your topic and go in a bit more detail as to what you've actually done for the year?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate that I had a really wonderful faculty member who I can name.
Yes.
She is Dr. Monica Mim Carmichael, and she was really, really wonderful in trying to help me find a project to hop onto, so I didn't have to do all this grant, writing and stuff that'd be helpful, but maybe a bit too much for my state in my life, kind of thing, as a full-time student as well. And so she was able to kind of connect me with the person who ran the Intercalated degree program, Dr. Catherine Allen, who had just received, extra grant funding for a project that was researching Coxiella burnettii, which is the causative agent of Q fever, which is also a zoonotic disease, and it causes reproductive issues in a large number of species, particularly in small ruminants and large ruminants. So it kind of like had all these components that I was very, very interested in. And also I would get the ability to work on my kind of weak points of, production animal medicine, as well as stats, coding, and all these kind of like uncomfortable, numbery things that I didn't see myself ever really enjoying. And then I was very fortunate, and I got a fantastic team of 4 supervisors, Dr. Joe Halliday, Dr. Catherine Allen, Dr. Richard Vasquez, and Dr. Lorenzo Viora, and they were all wonderful. And it was just a fantastic experience. And, I was able to bolster both my clinical, expected experience, but then I also had tons of time to focus on softer skills, as well as more, niche skills like reproductive ultrasounds in cattle, and looking at, epidemiology, planning and herd health surveillance, and all these different, things that I never expected that I would be interested in, and just kind of threw myself into trial by fire, and it all went pretty well. I'm happy with it all. And I like to say, I say it pretty often, it was one of my, if not one of my, the favorite kind of decision that I've made in vet school was to intercalate. So I highly recommend it to anyone.
Great. And I guess, with that sort of, how did you find the year sort of in general? Obviously, it's different from what you'd obviously been doing previously.
Yeah, it was very, very different because I wasn't being told necessarily specific to my program, be here, 5 days a week and, do all these things, tick all these boxes. It was more the basis of, career style work where you have, long-term deadlines. And I was really fortunate to have a primary supervisor who was Dr. Joe Halliday, who really helped me to kind of build structure for myself that worked well for me, because I'm not necessarily a self-structured person naturally. So we were able to kind of build a regimen that worked well for both of us, where we had tons of face-to-face time, where we were working together on things. But then I also had plenty to keep me busy, to say the least. And unique to my project, I was up at 4:30, 3 to 4 mornings every week for about 9 months, from October to July. And it was crazy and nothing that I knew I signed up for, but it was really great. And honestly, exactly what I didn't know I needed. My mental health was really, really good that year. I was able to be outside, playing with animals all day and grabbing a sample when I needed to, kind of thing. But no, it was great, and exposed me to a lot of different parts of medicine that you kind of don't see in practice, like in the laboratory, and then working with people who also are very involved with public health legislation, because, Q fever and Coxiella are now kind of under government surveillance because there is no public health risk. So it was really cool, because I was also able to contribute, and I'm working on publishing work from my research project, which would be the first evidence of Coxiella causing, reproductive issues in a dairy herd in Scotland. So it would be it's very cool. Like just only because I'm a nerd, but if you care about that kind of thing, it's very cool.
Yeah, great. No, and I think it's so interesting to hear more about it in the sense that I think there's lots about intercalated degrees, but it's just so much more beneficial hearing it from sort of a student perspective, how they've done it, how it worked. And like you said, it's been sort of your highlight since you've came here. So it's been really great to hear. And so I guess with that, do you have sort of any top tips for prospective students who are considering the University of Glasgow or students considering an intercalated degree?
Yes, I do. I think that I've kind of found myself on a very roundabout kind of way of going through a professional program where, I do tick the boxes, but I also kind of will check under every doormat and every corner to see kind of what's lurking and, asking questions and, asking for the chance to do something is so small but insanely beneficial in terms of like if I hadn't just taken a second and been like, oh, can I just like, is it possible for me to sit in or join you somehow and just get to know people and meeting the right people and just having these small conversations be life-changing is probably very dramatic, but it also can feel very honest and in a way that I never imagined like that I would be in Scotland considering spending, more time here after I graduate, considering going into academia and research and still trying to, juggle all of it and still trying to be clinical as well. But yeah, so definitely put yourself out there. The worst thing anyone can ever say is no. If you ask for something. And people tend to be very generous, especially in institutions such as Glasgow. No institution is perfect, but I think that the University of Glasgow is a really good example of the individuals making this kind of environment as special as I, have been able to make it myself. You get in you get out, exactly what you put into it. And if you take time to connect to people and, see what interests you, they will also, try to help you discover that for yourself. And everyone's just excited for you to do exactly what it is that you think it is that you want to do. And that can change 8 million times. I remember like my first year, I had an entire crisis, like panic attack about what if I miss an opportunity or what if I dedicate myself too closely to one thing and, miss all this other stuff that's going on. And I kind of just came to the conclusion that like, if I change my mind, halfway through it, 2 years after, 10 years after, I can just, the degree and the profession of veterinary medicine is just so diverse. And everyone you talk to has done at least 3 different kind of careers within one profession. So it's very, very special. And I think the best decision that you can make is to if you want to do it, don't let someone tell you, oh, but that's not how you do it. Do it however you want to. And if you want to do it and if you're ready to commit, then other people, only take advice from, the lives of people who you want your life to look like theirs. It's kind of the last thing and my last cliche that I'll end with.
No, that's great, Griffin. I mean, I think for any sort of prospective students, any, current students, it's just really great to hear that sort of advice and that sort of person who's lived through the experience. So thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to everybody who's watching. And any questions, do please just sort of contact the sort of vet admissions email, who will be more than happy to answer. So thank you very much and hopefully see some of you soon.